before we get started with this episode of Fourth Tier Fever, we're currently racing the League One Lowdown Boys till the end of the season. We want to finish the season with more YouTube subs than them. We're currently winning. We'd like to stay winning. So if you enjoy our content and you want to see more, you want to be the first to hear about everything that's going on with us, then be sure to press that big red button. It costs you absolutely nothing. But yeah, let's get right on to the episode. Right, hello and welcome to Fourth Tier Fever. Someone has left the gate unlocked, and I've been let in, and I'm in charge. Don't know how that's happened. We're just here, but I'm going to run with it. Thankfully, I am not alone. I'm joined by Jake. How are you, mate?
I'm very good. I thought our season was over on Good Friday, and somehow we've got one game left, and we're in the playoffs at the minute. So it's going to be a long week of looking at the table, but we might do it. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to you off air, I'd written you guys off weeks ago, absolutely weeks
So
ago.
did
But
I.
that's just been the chaotic nature of League Two this year. It's mental. And I mean, even I'm in a good mood at this point. I'm thoroughly enjoying Warne Ball, and I'm sure I'll get to milk that a little bit later. But I suppose I can't really get away with talking about my team first because there's promotions happening elsewhere, higher up in the table, at the heights of where we wish we could be right now. But we're going to kick things off with Doncaster Bradford, which was, I mean, yeah, two automatic promotion contenders up against each other second last game of the season. What more could you possibly want? It looked quite chaotic. There was definitely a nervous energy about that game. But Doncaster came out 2-1 winners. I think the whole thing was kind of overshadowed in a way by the Baldwin red card for dissent or something he said to the ref. Initially got a yellow, kept going, and got himself a straight red, which is almost impressive to do that with just words. So I don't know what he said, but he's let his team down massively there. And I think the occasions got the better of him. But I mean, we'll get straight onto it, Jake. What did you make of this game?
Yeah, like you said, it was certainly a nervy game, and to go 1-0 down, you think not the end of the world, and then to just I don't know why you do that at half time. Just walk in, reassess, go again, and then just to get sent off. You can see when he's walking off, all the players are, what are you doing? They just don't understand. So it's suddenly they'll be disappointed because he now misses the last game of the season, which is the biggest game they've had in a number of years. And then they don't take their chance to equalise with a penalty. Billy Sharp does what he does, and Doncaster win the game.
Well, yeah, exactly that, and it's just the position he put his team in. It's an impossible position, isn't it? Really, you're already 1-0 down. You're now a man down, facing one of the best sides in the league. Like, come on, and it's a huge wasted opportunity in that sense, and it's a shame because I think really they did actually put up a fight. It's just that one moment that's made it that much more difficult, and they're now in a position where they could have secured automatic promotion. They haven't, and it now comes on to the final day where there are two other teams that could potentially take their place. Yeah, I mean, it's madness from an individual standpoint. I still think there's a lot of fight in that team. I mean, evidently so, because it wasn't a cricket score. It's still a very tight game even afterwards, even after the red. But I don't know. I think from a Doncaster perspective, though, it doesn't matter how you do it. You just do it. They were already ahead before the red, regardless, and a thoroughly professional performance. And it was at home. I've been criticising their home form all season, but if you're gonna, pick it up right at the end, that's the way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to get promoted at home, even though I'm sure they wouldn't have minded going to Bradford and getting promoted there. They would have quite liked that. But to get promoted at home is always better.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, to be fair, pressure isn't necessarily even off yet because title race, you've already secured auto status, but why not go the whole way at this point? It's a straight shootout between them and Port Vale. And I think that'll be the game we get onto straight after this one. And actually, I'll tell you what, let's have a quick look at that one now. So that was AFC Wimbledon nil, Port Vale 2, which is, I don't know, I mean, it's just another professional job from Port Vale. I mean, AFC were in the game, but I think in terms of I don't know. I think just desire and that that will to win, and ultimately that's why you've seen Doncaster, Bradford, and Port Vale all sort of rise to the top. And I mean, Port Vale have shown what they're capable of, going to one of the better home sides in the league, and they've well secured a 2-0 win, clean sheet, automatic promotion. What more do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. They went to a side which tough place to go, but they aren't on the best of form. I think they've got 15 points in the last 15 games. So it's probably the best time to play AFC Wimbledon. So they went there, gave a few chances, they make theirs count, and Wimbledon didn't. So they get a win, get promoted. What more do you want?
Well, yeah, I mean it was another cagey one as well. I'm just looking at the stats for it. Like between the two sides, there were only actually 9 shots in the entire game, 3 of which were on target, and 2 of them were Port Vale's, and those were the ones that went in. And that's what matters. I think from an AFC perspective, it's I think it's the first goal that would disappoint me personally, because essentially Stockley's had a free header. I was looking at at the line there for the free kick, all the rest. I was like, okay, who's picking him up? At no point was anyone ever that close to him. They had their nice little organised line and all the rest of it, but no one was actually marking, the big striker that's going to put his head on it. Like it's basic stuff, and I think that's kind of been, I don't know, a sort of consistent problem with them with AFC in recent weeks. They've just sort of come off it a little bit. They've got 4 games now without a win, and they're slowly slipping to the point that they've now got a straight shootout with Grimsby for a playoff spot. They've obviously still got a bit of a buffer with you guys there in 7th, and I don't know, Chesterfield and whoever else potentially involved as well. But concern if for the South London lot.
Yeah, a bit concerned because, like everyone sort of thinks, they're a bit too reliant on Matty Stevens. He's not scored. He scored 1 goal in his last 15 games, and coincidentally, Wimbledon have picked up 15 points in 15 games. So they've got to find other ways of winning, and they're not doing that at the most crucial time of the season.
Well, I mean, you've summarised it pretty well there. The goals have dried up. They're 3 games without a goal, and I mean that's the worst time for it, especially when you've now got to go and face Grimsby. Although they didn't exactly have any shots on target. I wonder why that was. But we'll get onto that one a little bit later. But for Port Vale, again, it's just a case of they've got the job done. I think they were one of the teams that we were expecting to be up there, and I don't know. It took them a little while to get going. They've had stumbles. I think when Garrity went out injured for a little bit, that kind of messed with their flow, and they dropped off a bit. But in the end, they've picked up, and I think once they started finding form and from New Year onwards, it was always going to be a case that they'd be up there and pushing. I don't think it's any real surprise that they've got it done.
Yeah, completely agree. We all knew that they challenged for the league, and that's exactly what they've done in quite controlling manner.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's 2 of the autos spots decided, but of course there is the third one still. As we've already alluded to, Bradford have got to try and defend that spot, and they've got to defend it from 2 sides. The first of which was Walsall, who I'm running out of words to describe Walsall, to be honest, because it's yet another game. They've played Accrington at home, and somehow, like, this is another game where we're saying, you know what, this is a quote unquote easier game. Surely they're going to win this one. And once again, we're coming away at the end of it, and they've lost. What is going on? Can you even sort of begin to comprehend what is going on at Walsall right now?
I don't think anyone can because everyone just thinks they got 2 easy fixtures. They'll win them both. They'll get over the line, but they're not. And especially when they knew Bradford have dropped points and they win against Accrington, they go back in the top 3. They've got 1 game left. What more could you want? And they've shown again that they can't deal with the pressure of just trying to get promoted. So, I mean, at the minute, we'll play them in the playoffs if it finished now. And I'd actually quite fancy us, which is not something I thought I'd say at Christmas.
Well, yeah, I mean, we all go on about that 15-point gap. Unreal. How do you? messed that up. It's you can't really write it at all, to be honest. And we're now at a point where it's out of their control. So even if they do get a positive result, I believe they've got Crewe next, which is again a very favourable fixture because Crewe's form is awful. There's no getting around that. But even if they win that, doesn't matter if Bradford win. Bradford are just up. So I don't know. They've left themselves with a lot to do there. And I mean, they've got goal difference on their side. So if they were to draw that final game and Bradford lose, they could possibly creep in. But then you've also got Notts who are sort of creeping over their shoulder as well, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. I mean, for Accrington, it doesn't really mean much. Their season's kind of done already, but I don't know. It's a nice result to get. It kind of just felt like a typical kind of Accrington away result. They've set up defensively or whatever, tried to keep things tight, and they've just about got it over the line. Any thoughts on Accrington?
Yeah, they're a tricky little side to play because we slipped up to them on Good Friday, and I wasn't that impressed with them. But the more they pick up results, you think, okay, maybe they have the foundations to have a better season next year. Probably not challenging for the playoff, but they aren't a bad side, and they can be like Barrow have been this season, where you think that you're going to win, and then you just slip up when you don't expect to.
I feel like everyone that I've spoken to about Accrington has always said, "Oh yeah, I didn't think they were that good." But then they kind of show up and they've somehow got a result. It makes no sense. I don't know. They've just got a bit of fight about them. They've got I don't know, a set game plan. I suppose it's very physical. It's very like we're gonna make you come and attack us, and we might catch you on a breakaway because they have players that can do that. But I don't know. Essentially, this game didn't mean all that much for them. It was a whole lot more for Walsall. So that's impressive from Accrington in that regard to deny a team that really needed it. But of course, Walsall aren't the only team fighting for that final spot, which again didn't think I'd find myself saying at this point because I kind of assumed it would be between that top four. Uh, we've got Notts County who have suddenly shown up with a win against Harrogate.
Yeah, it's an important win because they were slipping up in the last 4 games. There was questions being asked of Maynard, but they've got one over the line, and they'll probably win the next one. Well, they do have Doncaster, to be fair, so probably not. But they're going to go into the playoffs with the best squad on paper, you'd probably say. And you'd probably fancy them, but again, will they get over the line in the playoffs? Who knows?
It's a tricky one. I think well, with Notts, they're still in that sort of hunting position. They've pretty much secured their status now. As a playoff side, but there's still the slim possibility of autos. I feel like if you're the team that finishes fourth, like let's say it could be Bradford or Walsall, you feel like it's a much bigger hit to take mentally. Like you suddenly have to pick yourselves up of we've missed our target and we've now got to try and go again and fight back, which often teams can't do in that sort of short space of time. With Notts, I feel like they're just about far enough away. I mean, yes, it's still technically possible, but it's not exactly favourable odds in the sense that there are two teams above them already. But I feel like they'd still be able to carry that momentum into the playoffs. And obviously, the individual talent within that squad, you look at Jatta and McGoldrick, Abbott, all the rest. You could go on for a while just listing Notts players there. But I don't know. I think they'd certainly be one of the stronger sides in the playoffs. But I mean, they've got to give it a good go on the final day. I know they've got a very tricky game against a team that's fighting for the title, but do you think they have it in them?
It'd be difficult. I mean, I don't think they'll go into expecting to win, but Doncaster, it depends how hard they've celebrated because by the looks of it, they've celebrated quite hard. So to get that focus will be hard, but they're going for the league, so you'd expect them to win it. So it'll be difficult for Notts.
Oh yeah, for sure. And just to very quickly mention Harrogate. Well, I will say this was actually a very interesting game watching the highlights back. It kind of felt like one of those typical end of season games where the score could be, 5-5, 8-7, something ridiculous. There are a lot of sort of nearly moments in that game. Not just for Notts either. I think Harrogate had quite a few chances in that game. So I don't know. There were certainly promising signs that they're still capable. But I mean, I don't know what it really means for them for next season, because again, this game kind of meant nothing to them. They're safe. But I don't know. What do you make of Harrogate at the minute?
I mean, before Christmas, everyone's a little bit worried about them, but they've gone on a good run where they've just lost that unbeaten run since New Year's Day, where they hadn't lost at home. So they'll be disappointed to lose that, but that's helped them get safety, which looked a little bit in doubt at one point. But they've had a decent season, just sort of typical Harrogate season. So we'll see what they do next year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's with them. I think it's going to be a case of transfer window could be massive. I know they haven't got much of a budget, but I don't know. I think we could potentially be on for an even weaker league next season, which sounds ridiculous to say. Because I was actually having a look at the top three from last season. I was looking at the points they needed. Obviously, my team were fourth. We were Dons came fourth with 78, which, as things stand, would actually put you in contention for the title this season. But there you go. But after that, you're looking at like Stockport, Mansfield, Wrexham. I think it was like 86, 88, and I think it was like 92 or something like that. But it was a whole lot more. You know, no one's even got close to those sort of numbers. It's just been a poor league in that regard. And well, the fact it's still open at this point is great for the neutral. Maybe not so much if you support one of those teams. As you do now, apparently Salford are in the mix. But got one more game to get to before we move on to your one though. That is Don's Grimsby. So my team against Jordan's team, and we will have an updated FTF league table at some point. I believe we're going to chuck that one up in midweek. But let's start with Grimsby. This was obviously a huge game for them. They were kind of on the edge. I think they were a seventh heading into that match day, and well, from what I saw of them, they put up a reasonable fight, but ultimately, I think we cancelled them out. They cancelled us out. They didn't have a single shot on target. I mean, they had the ball in the back of the net twice. One was a blatant offside, and the other was a blatant foul on the goalkeeper. So can't really argue either of those. They did hit the post with a free kick, which was, to be honest, I think our keeper had it covered, but I don't know. They clearly had something about them, and they are one of the best away sides in the league. I think they're fourth best away side in the league for numbers or whatever. But from a Grimsby perspective, it's a wasted opportunity, isn't it? I think Jordan mentioned as much.
Yeah, Jordan said that there wasn't a great deal in the game, and a draw was probably a fair result because both teams had that little bit of a spell where they could have scored but didn't. They weren't at their fluent best, like you said. They didn't have a shot on target. They did hit the post and miss a sitter late on, apparently. And
I don't remember the sitter. Although to be fair, I think both teams had moments. To be fair, I think both sides defended very well for the most part, and it was just a case of there would only be sort of the occasional moment where either our defense or their defense would switch off and suddenly opens the door. But no, it was an interesting one. I'd say for a 0-0, it was actually quite entertaining. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. Maybe because we didn't actually have anything to play for apart from contracts on the Paul Warne, which is another thing. I mean, that's the one thing I'm struggling to sort of judge with Grimsby. The fact that they've had no shots on target, is that a case of them not doing enough, or is that a case of hold on, we've actually defended quite well here? Because this is our third game on the Paul Warne. We had conceded one shot on target against Newport, one shot on target against Crewe, and none to Grimsby. That's three shots on actually no, not even. That's two shots on target over 3 games, which is ridiculously good. But obviously, Crewe and Newport aren't exactly up there form wise. If it was Grimsby, in theory, a much stronger outfit. I don't know. What do you make of Grimsby at the minute?
yeah, they're a bit inconsistent. Obviously, they're dropping points where you wouldn't expect them to. Obviously, that late capitulation at Harrogate will be massively disappointing. But regardless of if they make playoffs, which is decided on next week against Wimbledon, it has still been a really successful season from where they were last year. So they've got the foundations to build a good side next year and compete. So I don't think next week, regardless of the score, they should be too disappointed. Just got to see what happens.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Whatever happens, Artella's a project manager. He's building forwards, and I mean, this has been a bigger leap than I think many would have expected. Many Grimsby fans would have expected, and it would be frustrating to be up there for so long and miss out. But either way, they've done very, very, very well. But and the fact that the fact that they're still involved on the final day in a straight shootout for playoffs, that's just unreal. League Two. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on that one. Unless you're, of course, at a game, I'll be watching us against Swindon instead. But there you go. Uh, for us, this is again, in theory, nothing to play for. Uh, Safe, confirmed in division, fantastic. But it's more about the contracts and the change in system and how we set up for next season, what kind of momentum we can build up. And I think we're starting to see it. I think in the first couple of games under Paul Warne, you could clearly see the defensive improvement, but going forwards, we didn't necessarily have much. It's just a case of we defended well, and that was it. But I think there are signs of progress there, and quite frankly, there's potentially the foundations there to actually build a very good side without having to rip the team up and have a huge summer. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure we'll probably spend a lot in the summer given our owners and all the rest of it, but we don't have to go and get 20 out to get another 20 in. I think there's promising signs. I don't know. What does it look like from the outside, Jake?
It looks like it could be another promising summer, but what I think could happen is a promising summer and you start slow and then you end up, well, you won't change manager, but the pressure will build and you've just got to start quick. If you have like a flat summer where you just not too many in, too many out, like you said, just actually build a squad and let them develop and let them actually try and push for promotion without changing it too much.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we started slowly. At the minute, I kind of find myself comparing our situation to Colchester's, mainly because when Cowley's first came in there, they suddenly stopped conceding goals, and if they were losing, it was like little 1-0s, or if they were drawing, it was a 0-0, and all of those sorts of things. And they've sort of built that up over time, and that's sort of been how they've managed to find themselves at the right end of the table, albeit not quite enough this time around. But you can sort of see the project there, and I think that's what we're now at a point where we need to invest in this, because we've obviously put some huge resources in to get Paul Warne there, and it's a huge waste if you then be like, oh, we've started slow, off you go, like in halfway through October, we'll go find someone else. I don't think that would work this time. I think it's a case of you've got to let him build the project, and I'm certainly starting to see the foundations there. But anyway, that is enough on my side, because realistically, that's a story for next season. Let's get back to this season and let's get back to Salford, because as I said previously, you guys have come out of nowhere and you've beaten Colchester 4-1 to ruin their playoff hopes and put you guys into seventh, just inside inside that playoff spot. Uh, how did that even happen?
I have absolutely no idea. I literally, like I said earlier, I thought our season was over after we lost to Accrington. I was so annoyed, and then we beat Morecambe, and some results go our way, and you think, okay, maybe, but probably not. Then we beat Colchester, and it's like, oh, we're in the playoffs. And results elsewhere, I mean, we literally just have to win our next game, and it's in our hands with one game to go. So I actually have no idea how we've managed to find ourselves in this situation, but I'm not complaining. But yesterday was just so good. We won a penalty after 14 seconds, which I think we've had 2 penalties this season. So to get 2 in the same game is just crazy. And then we just took total control of it. After 25 minutes, we were 3-0 up. And I honestly don't know, like, where did it come from? It's just a shame we don't play like that every week, because it's the same squad. Obviously, players are back from injury, but there's not like 7 or 8 people that have come in and gone out. It just clicked. And Colchester, didn't really look like a side that were 10th or above going into the game. I thought they were really poor. They didn't offer much going forward. They looked a bit weak at the back, so it's a big blow for them because it probably puts them out of the playoff conversation because they need some more results to go that way. So I don't think they'll make playoffs because it's just too much of an ask now.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams between them and that playoff spot now, but I don't know. I think this game was the perfect sort of advertisement for mentality. Well, not for League Two, but also just mentality in professional sport. You guys hit the ground running, and I mean, clearly you wanted it. You got that first one. You went and got two more later in the half, and just kind of ran away with it in the end a little bit. And as you say, you've kind of made Colchester look like a weaker side. And by contrast, they've not only have they started badly by giving away the penalty and conceding it, but they've then collapsed on top of that. There wasn't a sense of sort of rallying behind it and like, okay, right, we've got to get going now. This is our season. We've got to get there. It's a case of Salford evidently just wanted it that little bit more, and Colchester have given themselves, probably too much of a mountain to climb at this point. I still think they're a very strong side, but the odds are stacked against them, and it's not in their hands anymore. And that's unfortunately the nature of this sort of end of the season, really. But I don't know. I think they're a similar case to Grimsby in the regard that it's still progress because they were another one that the previous season they were towards the wrong end, and even though it's looking likely they'll miss out now, there's still huge progress from last season to this one. And if you can then build on that again, because they've clearly got the foundations, because they've had a reasonably good season, there's still more they can work with there. I think there are still some frailties there, but it's nothing that can't be fixed over one transfer window.
Yeah, absolutely. Transfer windows are huge, and that summer one was unbelievable. Where every signing it was just like, how have Colchester done that? They just fight relegation, and it shows that the Cowleys have that attraction to them. And I think again in the summer they'll make some good signings and push next season.
For sure, there's certainly one I'm sort of keeping an eye on for next season, thinking they could actually cause us some problems. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, that's just a story for next season. Stay tuned next season. But no, we've got one more team that's battling for that playoff spot, and that is, of course, Chesterfield. Who, I mean, again, that's 4 goals from them against already relegated Morecambe. It did look a bit scrappy at times, but I mean, there was only ever really one winner in that game. Chesterfield absolutely dominated it, and they've given themselves the best chance possible. I mean, given all the injuries they've had and all the rest of it this season, I think they've done quite well to still be involved at this point. Again, they need a couple of favours, but the fact that they still is still a possibility for them is good going, and I mean, they're doing what they can, aren't they?
Yeah, like they're doing all they can, and they've put it a little bit with a chance. They've got Accrington away, who you'd think that they'd go there and win. And Carlisle, do they want to go out of the Football League with pride and beat us? And then if Wimbledon beat Grimsby, then they'd make the playoffs, which, like I said, with their injuries, it'd be such a good season for Chesterfield in their first season back. So it's still very much a possibility that they could get into the playoffs. So it'd be really interesting to see their last day.
Oh yeah, for sure. And well, yeah, I mean, they've got goal difference in potentially in their favour as well, depending on which sides do what, and whether it's 1-0, 2-0, or it could be very very close. Which again, from a neutral standpoint, is obviously very exciting to see. And again, they're another team that you're thinking, oh yeah, good project. Maybe not quite enough this time, but they've got the foundations, and there's a few teams sort of hovering on the edge that are quite like that. Unfortunately, we have lost Morecambe. I mean, they're already down, but I mean, I'm just would have kicked them while they're down. To be honest, this was a bit of a brutal result, and I don't know. It just goes from bad to worse for Morecambe, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think we all predicted them to be 24th, so it's no real surprise that they are 24th. But The bigger concern is obviously their whole ownership situation, and the biggest concern going into next season is Derek Adams mentioned that there's not been a plan put in place for next season yet, which when you go down, you'd want to start that preparation early to give yourself the best chance. And it's getting a little bit late if you really want to just start with a bang next season in the National League. So, yeah, I'm worried for them because it's very easy to get stuck in that league, and it looks like they will.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, they essentially built a National League side to try and stay in League Two, and naturally, it's not worked. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they're a plucky little side, and they had all that fight about them, but now it's over. That's just kind of it, isn't it? It's just a miserable end to the season for them, which is a shame. I mean, hopefully they can eventually sort of sort their ownership issues and sort of regroup in the National League. But as you've alluded to, that it's a very, very difficult league to get out of. Uh, but of course, there was, of course, one other relegation place to fight for. Well, not to fight for, to fight against, really. And Tranmere managed to pull themselves out of that fight with a 2-0 win over Crewe. I mean, Crewe have been very, very poor in recent weeks, but I don't know. It's a strong win from Tranmere, and I mean they've done enough to keep themselves in the Football League. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When Nigel Adkins left, it felt like a big moment because they've been waiting for that for quite a while. So, and then they gave it to Andy Crosby, and it was a bit like, okay, we'll see what he can do. And the job he's done there is superb. He's got them safe. They've got a takeover on the horizon. So it looks very promising for them going into next season if the takeover does go through. So it'd be interesting to see.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm just looking at the stats for that game now, and I mean they were in complete control of that game. Uh, yeah, 18 shots, 9 on target to Crewe's 5 shots and none on target. And bear in mind, Crewe were up until probably last game week or so, technically still had a chance of playoffs. I mean, the fall off there has been, I mean, it's just poor, and that's putting it quite lightly. I think. And then even just a red card in this game. I know Tranmere had one as well, which is a whole other issue. I've heard of about all of their red cards they've had over the course of the season from Jack, but 2 for Crewe as well. I mean, what's going wrong at Crewe? Can you put a finger on it?
It's surprising because they started a little bit slow and then they picked up, and you think, yeah, they'll compete, but they've won 3 games since the middle of January, which is so poor for a side which we expected big ambitions after last season. They're not scoring enough goals. They've not scored in their past 3. Like I said, they're not getting shots off. They're getting red cards. They've lost that discipline. The fans are losing the faith in Lee Bell. So there's going to be a big sum of that because things do need to change.
Well, I mean, Crewe were. I don't know. I think they were one of those sides when the season started. I initially saw them thinking, oh, their side's been ripped apart by everyone else. They're going to struggle. But actually, they came together and were actually creating, something quite good there. And it's only now in this last sort of month or so, it's now starting to fall apart again. I think I predicted them to be something like 16th or 17th or something. I don't know. Yeah, they've kind of just had that sort of fall off the last month or so, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I predicted them to finish really low down, like 16th, 17th, that sort of area of the table. But I mean, all of a sudden, that doesn't actually look like that bad of a prediction. I think there's something like 12th now. I mean, I don't know exactly when they were in the playoffs last, but it wasn't all that long ago, if I remember correctly. So the fall off it's almost comparable with Walsall's, maybe not quite as dramatic because obviously Walsall were, flying ahead of everyone. But I don't know, it's still a scary one heading into next season because we were talking earlier in this episode about projects. Crewe's project doesn't look quite so strong anymore. I know they've got their whole youth system that's been very reliable for them, but the negative tactics that have been implemented by Bell and the collapse in the mentality, something now has to change. And I don't really know what they change. Again, it's potentially a problem for next season. I wouldn't be surprised if they twist and the off season actually, and maybe get rid of Bell for someone else. I don't know who that would be. I don't know. Where are you at with Bell? Do you think he deserves his job? Put it that way.
It wouldn't surprise me if he went in the summer, because 12th, and if results go against him, they could literally finish bottom half, which to go from playoffs, well, to go from Wembley to bottom half is such a big fall off. So
Tell me
something
about
needs,
it.
something does need to change there. So it'd be interesting to see.
Oh yeah, for sure. But for Tranmere, it's well, obviously it's a huge result. As we said, it confirms their status in League Two for another season, and I don't know if things are potentially looking up for them. Don't know what the latest is on the whole ownership thing, but in terms of the squad they've got and the manager they've got in Crosby, there's potentially potential there. I didn't really know how else to phrase that, but of course, if Tranmere are safe, that means there's another team that's gone, unfortunately, and that's Carlisle, who have managed to lose 3-2 to Cheltenham. And of course, it wouldn't have mattered if they won, because as long as Tranmere won, Carlisle were down. It was out of their hands. But it's still, I don't know, it's still a bit disappointing to not at least do your bit, I suppose.
Yeah, they'll be disappointed because it's just been a miserable 2 seasons for them. They've lost 54 of their last 91 games, which is since they got promoted out of League Two from Wembley. So there's been so many mistakes they've made with signings that they spent big money on, to managerial appointments, that it's hard to not blame the people at the top, because everything that they could have done has probably been the wrong decision. So for them to go down feels a little bit criminal, but not surprising, because their whole season's just been miserable from start to finish.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't say that the owners haven't tried because, I mean, they've clearly thrown money at it. With the amount of players they've got, the amount of managers they've gone through. Um, I mean, how many players are on the books now? It's like 30, 40, something ridiculous. They've got loads of players there that haven't played in ages, but they've got to now. I don't know how many of them are out of contract. They've got to figure that out. That's a whole other conundrum to deal with now in the National League, which is a total disaster. And it's now the second year running where a team's done the double in the wrong way. Which is, I mean, I don't know, it's disturbing a little bit actually. Even if you're up in the heights of League One, if you find yourself falling off a bit, you're not safe, and there's no security there. You have to find a way to regain, and Carlisle haven't. I think, as you sort of alluded to there, I think their tactical decisions in terms of, I think particularly with the timing of sacking managers, totally naive. You know, to have, you've got two transfer windows in a season, to sack your manager just at the end of both of them after you've let them bring in all their players. Someone please make it make sense. I I do feel for Carlisle fans because, yeah, I think the expectation would have been a whole lot greater than the hand they've been dealt in the end, and now they find themselves in a very tricky league to get out of. I'm sure if the owners can wise up a little bit and actually start making some good decisions, then they definitely have the resources to get themselves back up. But it's easier said than done, unfortunately. But of course, it was Cheltenham that kind of dealt that final blow. And I mean, last few weeks I'd kind of been critical of them, but I don't know, they're starting to look a little bit good again. I don't know what's going on over there. What have you made of Cheltenham recently?
They're a side which, when their wide players of Thomas and Ethan Archer are on it, they're a very, very good side. But when they're not on it, they just look easy to beat and a little bit weak. So as long as they keep them, but I don't think they will, and Flynn said that they're probably likely to leave, then they could be in trouble next season if they don't get the window right.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it could. It's been such an open league, and I think potentially we're looking at an even more open league next season. So who knows? Again, it's just another conundrum we'll have a look at over the summer, I'm sure. And I'm sure we'll have plenty of things planned for everyone to listen to. It'll be quite cool, I'm sure. But anyway, we've got 3 games left, and none of them are particularly important, to be honest. Sorry if you support any of those 6 teams, but you're going nowhere. You're stuck here with us next season. So, yeah, I mean, we'll get onto them anyway. Barrow 3, Bromley 3. I mean, this is your typical end of season. Well, let's just have a bit of a laugh and score as many goals as possible. Looked like a good game, actually, and I mean, some of the goals in that game were quite scrappy, but I don't know. I mean, it's I don't really know what to think of this game. I think it's hard to judge either team on it really, just because it means quite literally nothing. It's only players playing for their contracts and having a bit of a laugh at the end of the season. Yeah, are there any insights you can take for either of these 2 teams?
I think the positive you can take is that Bromley came from a goal down 3 times, which, even when you're playing for nothing, clearly shows that you have a bit of fight and that mentality of we don't want to be beaten, which to have that is perfect in any side at any level. So there's a positive to take for them. And then the negative is for Barrow that they've kept 3 clean sheets in a row and they've taken the lead 3 times in a game and given goals away 3 times. So they'll be a little bit concerned about that, but they're both on the beach and they won't worry about it for too long.
Well, yeah, it's a case. I think with Barrow, it's case of they got the job done weeks ago. They're safe in the division. Andy Wing's done a reasonable job at getting the side to rally together and put in a few decent performances. But I think they're in a similar boat to Morecambe in the sense that the squad they've got isn't really good enough, if we're being totally honest. And I think it's going to be a case of they're going to need a big summer. They're one of the sides I'd potentially look at as a side that could be threatened by relegation next season. But obviously, that is pure, there's a lot to happen between now and then. Whereas for Bromley, as you say, they've certainly got that fight in them. And, they've I mean, I think if they can finish top half, I think that's a very, very impressive season for them with the resources they've got at their disposal as well. They don't have much, but they've made it work and they've found ways of winning games and being competitive in this league. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know. The way I'm sort of thinking about Bromley is, I think next season's going to be tougher for them because they had that momentum of coming up upper division. They don't have that anymore. It's going to be pure fight, and they still don't have the resources. That's not their fault. That's just how it is. I think they've got a much bigger fight next season to maintain their level, I suppose.
Yeah, when you come up as a little bit of an unknown for the first time in the EFL, people are going to underestimate you a little bit and perhaps just think, yeah, we should beat them regardless. And obviously, that's not the culture they have, and they do compete, as we've seen multiple times this season. So next season, I do agree, will be tougher, but as long as Andy Woodman's there, I think that they'll compete as much as they can.
Oh yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think there'll be 2 interesting sides to watch next season for sure. Especially over the summer, I will be keeping a close eye on all 24 teams, whichever ones they end up being. And I mean, 2 other sides I think will be very interesting in particular next season, due to their managers, actually. Gillingham and Swindon, they drew 1-1. Another 2 red cards in this game. Honestly, what is going on? Why is everyone getting sent off this week? It's like your game doesn't even matter. Wow, what are you doing? Um, but no, it's another game for Ainsworth where his team is unbeaten and showing signs of life. Yeah, I don't know. They're an interesting side at the minute, Gillingham, because I think like Dons, they're a side that there was a lot of expectation on them. They've totally failed to live up to any of it, and but they are starting to find their feet again. Which again, similar story to us, but I don't know. What do you think of Gillingham at the minute?
Yeah, there's an obvious improvement since Ainsworth's gone in, but it does still seem to be a little bit of the same problem where they've only scored 2 goals under Ainsworth once, and that was against us, of course. So they need to improve the attacking situation, which we say all the time. So it'll be interesting what they do again, because do they go and sign loads of attackers like they did last summer? Because that didn't work. Do they just trust Ainsworth's style of play, which doesn't necessarily always get you as many goals? due to the style he plays. But I think they'll still be an interesting side to watch next season.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I do think it's worth mentioning that you want to build from the back, in the sense that you want to be solid in defence before you commit forward. I'd say it's probably slightly easier problem to deal with, not being able to score rather than not being able to stop conceding. Uh, yeah, I think they're in a similar boat to us in that regard, actually. But I mean, with Swindon, again, they're an interesting. They can be free scoring when they want to be, especially on the Holloway. But then they've sort of come off it a bit last couple of games. Yeah, again, they're another one that again their season's kind of done or whatever, but it's about building that momentum up for next season. I'm not sure they're really doing that at the minute.
Yeah, I totally agree. You just know that Ian Holloway wants to get that momentum. He signed a 3-year contract, was it? He knows.
Yeah, it might have been 4 actually. It was 3 or 4. Yeah, it was a long one.
Yeah, he will want to build that momentum and build a squad that can compete, because since he's come in, they've gone from relegation to only last week, I think it was, that season was officially over, which is really impressive, because you thought that at one point that would be probably them securing safety if the season was over at this point, not trying to reach the playoffs. So they just need to keep that momentum, like you said, and see if they can compete next year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, they're another one that you're just looking at the summer. You can kind of see some foundations there, but you don't know which way it's going to go just yet. And while you're still in this season, it's just grinding out the results, wait for the summer to happen. That's realistically, that's where your focus has shifted to. We've got one last game to cover, and I mean, it's Fleetwood having a good day, having one of their good days. We know how consistently inconsistent they are, but they put in a thoroughly professional performance against Newport, 2-0. Newport are now managerless. They've got rid of Nelson Jardim. I'm sure Kieran's like doing some sort of jig somewhere, but I mean, it's not exactly an improved performance just yet. What do you think of Fleetwood? They to me they feel like a side that they have moments, or they have sort of like 30-40 minutes within games where they look unplayable, and then the rest of the time they just flop. I don't know. What do you think of them?
Yeah, similar to what Pete Wild did at Barrow last season, where they have moments where they're really good and they get towards the end and it's then just sort of flops, like you said. It's just the inconsistency that they've had all season. They've drawn too many games at home. They've just, the amount of points that they've given away late is really disappointing, especially for the side which does have quality on paper, but they have struggled with injury, so it's not that surprising.
Yeah, for sure. Whereas I think for Newport, it's much more concerning times. I know that again their season's done essentially. They're looking forwards, looking for a new manager more than anything. Uh, but it's still a bit concerning, isn't it? I mean, they're quite lucky the relegation race is over already in that regard, because I mean their form is really not great, and then they're not showing any signs of life at all, really.
Yeah, one stat I noted was they've only scored in 3 of the last 10 games, which, especially when they've got a new manager coming in into an inexperienced squad, where they're not going to change their approach of, like Kieran always says, signing Cardiff and Swansea academy players. I think they need that experience, because otherwise it could be a worrying season for them with no experience, a new manager. They do need to just find a way to win a little bit more often, because it is getting a little bit close.
Yeah, Carl Hudlin evidently not doing the business over there. Uh, the consistent meme of fourth tier fever, but no, that I mean that's all of the games covered. However, I mean there's so much to talk about. I've inevitably ended up missing some stuff. One thing I forgot to mention with our own game is obviously Dean Lewington started his final game at Stadium MK. I couldn't go the episode without mentioning it, so I had to go back to it. Outstanding career. I don't think we're going to see anything like it ever again. Really, that level of loyalty and to be honest, he didn't even look out of place. He actually looked quite good. So I was like, can we have one more year, please? But no, he was. Yeah, he's obviously a fantastic player, and I've got to say credit to Grimsby as well. The whole guard of honour, all their players coming up to him and shaking his hand as he walked off the field after about 70 minutes. I think we brought him off. Huge respect to them, and well, huge respect to their fans as well. I know they weren't particularly bothered about applauding the Dean Lewington or whatever. Fair enough, but in terms of their support, that's probably the best support I've seen all season from anyone to come to Stadium MK. That's the noise they were making was comparable to the likes of Coventry when they've come here and they bring 7,000 or 8,000 sometimes. So no, fair play to them. I suppose the only other thing to mention is to just come back round to the promotion race, because obviously there's a whole lot to play for, and I'm sure we'll preview it properly. But I don't know. What are your general thoughts on firstly the title race, and secondly that auto spot as well?
I think the top three stays as it is, probably. I think Bradford will get over the line. They've got a home game against Fleetwood. They'll probably sell out Valley Parade. And then that'll be... Their home form is literally the best in the league. They've lost twice there all season. So I think they get over the line. Port Vale will do it, but Doncaster will still win the league.
Wow, you've heard it here first. But I don't know. It's a tricky one. I think I would. My head is saying I should just straight up agree with you, because I think everything you've said there is very, very logical. But I'm also just wondering, it's League Two. Nothing has made sense this season. I'm starting to wonder if, despite the whole red card thing, if Bradford are going to miss Baldwin being their next game. Is that a possibility? Are we suddenly going to see a shock result there? Are Notts going to appear out of nowhere and take the spot, which is still an entirely realistic possibility, albeit unlikely. And that's before you even consider the playoffs, which again, there's 4 or 5 teams still in it. That Grimsby AFC game, that is ridiculous. You couldn't have written it to be any better, really. It's just a fantastic way to finish the season. And the playoffs are going to be a whole other ball game. It's going to be ridiculous. That's just been the nature of the league this season. But I don't know. I think that's pretty much everything. I think we've just about mentioned everything we needed to. I'm sure if we haven't, it will probably just get shouted at in the comments. So thank you for mentioning it. If we missed anything, thank you. But yeah, any other thoughts before we sign off?
Just what we said right at the start of remember to subscribe, because we do have some exciting plans over summer, and you don't want to forget about us and miss it, because it will be very, very good, I'm sure. So to stay up to date, just remember to subscribe.
Exactly what he said. We're not gonna go silent over the summer. We do have things planned, and we'll try and keep you guys entertained in the absence of actual football. Don't worry, we're not going to actually play football and post that. That would be terrible. But but no, we do have some cool things planned, and obviously the support is hugely appreciated. We didn't think we'd be quite in this position already. 1,000 subs on YouTube is ridiculous. But yeah, it's just great to be part of the League Two community, really, and let's prove it's the best community by beating League One Lowdown. We want more subs than them, which we already have, but can we get further? Thank you. But no, I'm sure we'll say it in the final couple of episodes as well. But just thanks to anyone that's tuned in at any point this season. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable one, apart from the football itself. But that's another problem. That's not your guys' fault. Less said about that, the better. But it's Just thanks to everyone, and I'll leave it there. Be sure to subscribe, share us wherever Well, I can't remember the way Jordan says it. He has it written down. He's nailed it every single time. But now we'll leave it there. Thank you for tuning in, and catch you on the next one.